Good evening, beautiful people. Welcome to PM Personality Profile. My guest tonight, a household name. She is an academic and diplomat who has served in various sectors of governance. She's a former High Commissioner to Canada under the Akufo-Addo administration, an associate professor of communication at the School of Communication at the University of Ghana, Legon, and a member of the Council of State. By now, I know you know I'm talking about Professor Margaret Gyan. She's my guest tonight. Good to see you, and I'm very excited that we're finally having this conversation. How have you been?
By God's grace, I've been very well.
And what have you been up to?
What else, apart from teaching, even though on retirement, teaching and minding my own business. And doing the work of Ghana at the same time.
Quite interesting. I can't sit with a member of the Council of State and not ask this question. So let me start with this. As a member of Council of State, there's been so much debate about how the Council of State does not have much power to influence the decisions of the president. How do you feel about some of these comments?
Well, if you know why the Council of State was set up, and you know that it is basically an advisory body, even your father's advice, you don't take it all the time, do you? And so you shouldn't expect that somebody who has offered himself for a position as president, has gone around the country, has been elected, is bound to take advice from anybody. They have to weigh what you are telling them and see whether it's actually the way they want to go. Okay. So I think that living within the present constitution, what's the mandate of the Council of State is to proffer advice, not just to the president, to ministers, to government functionaries, and in fact sometimes even individuals. And so when the advice is given, you decide whether it is worth your taking or not. But I don't know why there's this perception that the president doesn't take advice. Okay. Of course, you don't expect him to take everything you tell him. He has a mind of his own. He has his cabinet, and so you would add, but to say that he doesn't take advice at all would be erroneous. It's not true.
We'll definitely talk more about issues affecting the nation. I know you, for instance, you abhor corruption. I'll be picking your thoughts on some of the issues. And as we get into the elections, definitely there are a lot of issues, including intemperate language on the political scene. You are a communicator. I'll be picking your thoughts on all of that. But I know you, as a person, you were born in Wenchi, right? Is that where you hail from?
No, I hail from Nsoko, which is about 18 miles from Wenchi.
Okay.
But I was born in Wenchi.
That means that you are from the Bono region?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
100%.
Both parents?
Yeah.
Through and through.
Yeah.
Is that where you grew up?
No. In fact, I grew up, I think, for the most part, in Tamale.
Okay.
For the most part.
How did that happen?
You know, you follow your father on his transfers.
Okay. Your father was
a civil servant. He, in the end, was working with VRA, NED.
Okay.
And so we're in Tamale. In fact, for the greater part of my life, we're in Tamale. And from there, I went to Jarapa. So it's all been north for me.
Interesting.
You know, I was in St. Francis for 5 years. So Form 1 to Form 5.
And your mother?
Yeah,
she also
my
had
parents,
to come
yeah.
In Tamale. So
yes.
Tell me about growing up in Tamale. At what age?
I got to Tamale when I was 12.
12 years.
12, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure they try to show you Pepe small at that time.
Oh, not really. We found very interesting and friendly people around us.
Okay.
And so, yeah, living in Tamale was quite cool.
Okay.
You didn't really feel that you were in a strange land. And you know, Hausa is one language that is very easy to learn.
Yes.
And so it wasn't too much of a problem.
Okay.
And I had a friend who took a time to just write Hausa, common Hausa words and their English meaning for me to learn and all that. So it was interesting.
So you speak Hausa?
Today I don't even know whether to answer yes or no.
You so late.
You know, no, I still speak some Hausa, but I won't say that the way I used to speak it, I'm still speaking it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Harokoki.
I'm not going to
which
respond.
are the words, the ones that you remember?
Well, don't worry. I always tell people that when I get into the environment,
it will come.
The language comes.
The language will come by itself.
It comes. Yeah.
So, but if I ask you, kike ko that one you should be able to. Lafialo, you should be able to respond. But were you able to learn Dagbani too?
Unfortunately, I wasn't, because the time that I should have been learning Dagbani was when I was in Jirapa.
Okay.
You know, because I went to secondary school from age 14 to 19. I was not in Tamale that much.
Okay.
But all my siblings
they
speak Dagbani, all of them.
Wow.
In fact, one of them was born in Tamale.
I see.
So they all speak Dagbani.
Interesting.
I'm the only odd one, and of course my father too.
Okay. And in Jirapa, did you learn how to speak?
You know, secondary school environment, you're supposed to speak English.
Okay.
And so, apart from Ansoma and those little words in Dagari, it wasn't possible to learn.
Wait.
My last schooling year was age 13, because when I entered Takasaka, I realized much later that all the friends I made had done common entrance and were going to secondary school.
Okay.
So I became lonely and said, okay, the next offering I'm going to do common entrance. So I was in Sakasaka for I think 1 year.
Okay.
School actually started from Winchi nursery, and then I think class 1. And then when my father was transferred to Sunyani, he dropped me with his mother in Nsoko. So I have classmates who I was with in class 2.
Okay.
And then class 3 I went to Sunyani to be with my parents.
Okay.
And class 4 I was back in Nsoko, Methodist Primary. And then from there they took me back to Sunyani, and class 5, class 6, Form 1. It was Form 2, was it Form 1 or Form 2 that we went to Tamale? So it's been Wenchi, Sunyani, and then Tamale.
Then from Tamale to St. Francis.
Yeah, St. Francis, Jirapa, and then
Jirapa.
to St. Louis for 6th form in Kumasi.
Okay, tell me about growing up first. I mean, what were the fond memories of growing up? It must have been very interesting.
Well, I don't know what interesting means. When you have poor parents who are struggling to take care of you, it's not that much interesting.
But a civil servant cannot be a poor parent.
Oh, please.
At least middle class.
Oh, no. It depends on at what level.
Okay.
You know, and if your parents are struggling to take care of you, you really will not describe your life as interesting or affluent or anything. You're just an ordinary kid. Just an ordinary kid growing up. Fortunately, the neighborhood wasn't an affluent neighborhood, so you didn't feel that somebody was better than you. You were just all the same. So the friends that we made, and in fact, my best friend is still my best friend up to today.
Okay, from Tamale?
My best friend then, yeah, she's still my friend up to today.
I see.
She's in Tamale still. She's also retired.
Nodna?
Yes, she's a Nodna.
Okay.
She's retired and I've retired, so we just call each other once in a while to check up on each other.
And were there also terrible moments?
Oh yes, a few terrible moments. You know, like going to school in that hot sun without sandals.
Oh wow.
That was terrible.
Really?
That was terrible. Yeah.
Why? Because your parents couldn't afford.
They couldn't afford to, because there were how many of us? We were 5 before the Tamale born came, so 6.
Wow.
And
you are number
1.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it wasn't that easy. But you know how when your parents are honest with you, you really don't feel you are missing much. So I remember in Sunyani, I wanted to go to experimental school.
Yep.
And I told my father I wasn't going to go to this district assembly, LA, and Catholic RC and things like that. I wanted to go to an experimental school. And he said, well, I should be in my school. There's nothing wrong with that. I said, well, I woke up one day, I said, if you won't take me to experimental school, I am not going to school again. And so he was almost compelled to go to the school, find out, of course, how much it was going to cost him and all that. And then he realized that even if I was his only child, he couldn't have afforded.
Yeah.
Okay, so he came back, sat me down and said, you know, there are so many of you, we have to feed all of you and pay your fees and all that. If I take you to this school, this is my salary. This is how much I'm paying. So, and I understood. So from then on, I didn't ask for an experimental school. And so you get to Tamale, the neighborhood is like ordinary neighborhood. So you really don't even know. When you know about other people's lifestyles, that you can compare. You didn't have anything to compare with, you know. And so you were just like any other kid in the neighborhood and nothing to worry about. I was in Tamale for 1 year, Saka, and it's not a boarding school. So you went back home. Whatever your circumstances, it was between you and your parents, so that wasn't a problem. Yeah. Maybe you want to find out about secondary school. So secondary school, yeah, St. Francis, I think there were others who were poorer than I was. So it was not so much about wealth or affluence. It was more about studying and passing your exams and getting molded into, of course it was a girls' school, into a lady who can function in society. So difficulties, no. And those days it was really, Japa itself was a very poor place. In fact, the last time I went there a few years back, because one of my colleagues in communication studies lost his father, I was so surprised. Because when we were there, you would walk from the school to the town. It was like walking forever. Okay. And there was no building anywhere. It was all a desert. And this time I got there, and the school actually has a neighbor. Okay. So from that place all the way to town is developed. Okay. And I was really surprised. So in that kind of neighborhood, you really didn't feel that there was any. And you see, secondary school, I don't know about other places where I went to school, they will feed you so well that what else do you need? Teenager, what do you need? Food. You need your food, and then you also, and they'll force you to study. Yeah. So you go to the classroom to study, you go for prep, and when you have to sleep, you sleep. Okay. You know, so it was ordinary.
Let's talk about the school environment. How would you describe it? Like you just mentioned, the teaching and learning environment, the discipline. Yeah. How would you describe that environment?
Oh, St. Francis discipline, I wish they could replicate in every institution in this country. Of course, I haven't been there. It was a long time ago that I was. But you are disciplined. And you see, today you hear about schools where cheating is almost like is the order of the day. So you have a headmaster, headmistress who collect money from parents, give to somebody who's supposed to be an invigilator, and they're all happy. You know, this was unheard of. In St. Francis, you were more interested in studying, and you do all the things that you have to do to study. Yeah. Chewing cola, taking coffee, putting your feet in water, just to keep awake and study. So idea of cheating was not in the equation at all.
I'm sure at St. Francis, now you were wearing shoes.
Oh, of course. Actually, in Sakasaka, I started wearing sandals. Okay. My first pair of sandals, you know, it belonged to my father. It belonged to him. And I don't know what I was looking for in his suitcase. And I found this pair of sandals in it. So I picked it. When he came, I said, Papa, what are you doing with this one? He said, leave it there. I said, no, I need something to wear to school. And you're not wearing it. So he said, okay, you can take it.
Why not?
So that was my first pair of shoes, sandals to go to school. Okay. Of course, the schools will give you their prospectus. And that was something my father always made sure, whatever it was he was asked to do, he did. Okay. So you are supposed to bring maybe 2 pairs of slippers or whatever he provided. Yeah. And the school gave us uniform. So they would buy the material for somebody to sew, and that's the kind of dress that the sizes are all unisex. You can see somebody who is diminutive wearing something that is for a tall girl and all that. But anyway, we're clothed. And I think that was what was important.
That's the most important thing. And at St. Francis, did you ever get yourself into trouble? What kind of a student?
You know, St. Francis, I don't always want to talk about it because I didn't get myself into trouble.
The trouble
But
came
trouble
to find
found
you.
me. Trouble found me in the sense that, you know, when we are vocal, and then sometimes people think that you are capable of doing all kinds of things, even when you are not. Okay. So we went on Aluta. At that time, I think I was secretary to the SRC or something, I don't remember. Okay. But I disagreed with the whole idea of going on Aluta. And of course, the majority carried the day, so that was it. But what I did was, the idea was that in the night, we were going to blow the whistle and students were going to get out of the dormitory and make noise and all that. I knew that if I stayed in the dormitory, my name would be added to those who had planned and all that.
Yeah.
So immediately I heard the bell, the whistle. I left the dormitory, went to the classroom area, sat in front of the typing pool. But I was there when one of the teachers came and found me and said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "They are making noise. I just want to be away from the noise." I said, "Why don't you want to be part of it?" I said, "No, because I don't believe in what they are doing." And interestingly, when they were dismissing and suspending leaders of the demonstration, my name was added.
Wow.
And you know what the reason was? They said everything was hatched in front of our house. That was Bishop Derry house. And so there were two Margarets, me and another one. Okay. He said if it wasn't me, then it would be the other one.
Okay.
And the other one had already been found to have been part of it. So she was actually dismissed.
Okay.
And they said there was no way this thing could happen without Margaret Gyan being involved. You know, I said, this is so unfair. In fact, much later, the person who led that crusade became the headmistress. And much later, I met her at the state transport yard at Accra.
Okay.
And actually, she apologized. I said that was so unfair.
Were you punished?
I was.
What kind of punishment?
Oh my goodness. The guys were being suspended and dismissed. You think they will leave me alone?
So you were also suspended?
I was suspended.
Oh my goodness.
And it's one of the most painful moments of my life.
Yes.
When you haven't done something and you're being punished for
Definitely.
it, really.
And nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening.
Hey, I'm not part of it.
So, in fact, the only one who believed me was our headmistress then.
Okay.
And she was a French Canadian, Sister Camille. She called me and she trusted me. So I was cleaning her office and all that. So she called me and said, "Tell me everything that happened." So I narrated everything. She said, "I believe you." But she was only one among all the teachers.
Yeah,
there was no way Margaret Gyan would not be involved when this thing was happening in front of Dairy Domes 1 and 2. I said, okay. So that was Form 4. So the whole of Form 4 second term, I didn't go to school.
Okay.
I had to come back to Tamale.
Okay.
So I got to Tamale. My father said, "What happened?" I told him. He said, "Is that all the truth?" I said, "Yes." That was the first time my father traveled to Jirapa.
Okay. So all the while that you were there, he never came.
Our time it wasn't like today when parents are almost following their children to school. And going there every day.
Then they leave you there.
He didn't even take me there.
You are on your own.
Because we used to, the seniors would arrange something, those days soccer Benz bus.
Okay.
And then it will come park at some filling station in Tamale, and then we got ourselves in, we went to school, and then vacation, the same driver will come and pick us.
Thank you.
So my father never knew Jirapa until that incident.
Okay. So how were you like fending for yourself? Because if nobody came to visit, that means you were not getting home chore, you were not getting enough
I didn't even mean that.
Okay, you had enough.
We were fed.
Okay.
Really fed well.
Okay.
And then also you went, because you knew, remember there were no mobile phones those days. So you went to school, and even if your mother died, you wouldn't hear until you came back.
Yes.
And so you would pack your gari and everything that you needed in your chobos and go. Then the school will feed you. If you want to supplement your gari and sardine and things like that, is it. You didn't need, in fact, sometimes you even had extra food in your chobos.
Okay.
Because the dining hall was enough.
Okay.
There was enough food. There was enough food for us.
So from St. Francis then to St. Louis.
To St. Louis in Kumasi.
Okay.
Yes.
Why, were you a Catholic?
No, but I have been to almost every church.
Oh.
You know, when I was in the Catholic school in Sunyani,
Okay.
I found myself in a Catholic church. And it just happened that one day, you know, I think in the primary school they were wearing green and white at the tip. In the middle school is white and green at the tip.
Yeah.
So, and I was too young for that white. One day I was going home, then father was sitting by the church. He saw this little girl dirty, my dress was all dirty. He called me and said, "Why had I made myself dirty?" I said, "I was playing." Then he said, "Okay, I should go home, wash the dress, iron it, and the next day come and show it to him before I go to school."
Okay.
So I did that, and he wanted to see me every day. So I did that and made sure that my dress was neat. Then he said, can he get young girls like me, about 6, to do something in the church?
Okay.
So I ended up going to Catholic church because we had to then distribute the brochures that they use at church and all that, Sunday after Sunday. So I became a Catholic.
Okay, then.
Then, and but going to school, St. Francis would take anybody. Muslims were there, Methodists were, that was Methodists, Pentecostals were there, everybody was there.
Your parents were Methodists?
Yeah, they asked where my mom was dead, but my father, you are still a Methodist church. Yeah.
Methodist. So are you still a Methodist or a Catholic?
Don't let my pastor hear you. Let him hear you. Here right now, I've been a Baptist since 86.
Okay.
Since I finished the university, I just found myself in Baptist church. Okay. But I'm also a Methodist. Okay. So when I go home, I'm a Methodist church. Yeah, Methodist church, and I do when they have to anything I have to do, I do what I have to do. Okay. But I'm in Baptist church. You know, at the end of the day, it's not about the denomination.
It's about God.
It's about your relationship with Christ. That's all.
That's interesting. So from St. Francis to St. Louis, how was St. Louis? At that time, sixth form. I'm sure you were a big girl.
I don't know how big I was, but I saw a vast difference between the two institutions in terms of the social life. Not so much academic life, but social life. In St. Francis, we're like sisters. Big sister, small sister, and that. And it was more, for me, St. Francis environment was more like my home environment. Okay. Then I got to St. Louis, and there you saw class. Okay, the rich people's children, and you know, and those whose parents will bring them food every week, and sometimes even in between the week, sneaking things to them. And so you really felt that you were not the same. Yeah. Some kind of animal farm. You were not all equal. So, but really, I was almost an adult, so it didn't really matter. But it was just 2 years, so it was more of just finish the job and leave. That's all.
So how did you cope with that? You know, seeing people visiting, parents visiting them, and all of that. You must have felt
you know, when you don't expect anything.
You are not disappointed.
You're not disappointed. My parents are in Tamale, and I'm in Kumasi, so I'm not expecting them. Okay. My father had a friend who was in Tamale, had been posted to Kumasi, so he became our father. My brother was also in Prempeh, so he became our father. Okay. Sometimes we would spend our vacation with him if it was short, or at least go home to him, and then maybe a week or 2 later go to Tamale and all that. So it was like that.
Were there challenges? I'm talking about maybe your fees and other things, because you said your parents were not well-to-do.
They were not well-to-do. You know, fortunately for my time, school fees was not such a difficult thing. Okay. So, for instance, I attended St. Francis from Form 1 to Form 5. It was only in the dying minutes that they realized that, well, you know, let me just backtrack. The northern students were enjoying free education. Okay. And because the Southerners were very few, they didn't feel the need to isolate us to pay fees. So we're all together. Okay. When we got to final year, I don't know what happened, but they asked us to pay fees. So that was the only real fee that I paid. The rest was just some little monies that everybody was paying, and that was it. And St. Louis was the same, because we had then started paying Form 5. Okay. It was, I didn't feel it, because my father's friend would pay every fee that we had to pay
for you,
for us, before my father reimbursed him. Okay, so he was doing that, not only for me and my brother. Okay, so that was what happened. We never felt pressured by money. Okay. In fact, that was one thing my father was very good at. Okay. He would make sure everything connected to school had been settled. Okay. So that you won't be sacked from school because you haven't paid fees and you haven't bought this book or that. No, it never happened to us. He would pay and then we'll go. Okay.
And then so from St. Louis then to University of
Ghana. Yeah.
Okay. How was the journey? Definitely university would also look different from
Of course.
St. Louis.
Nobody is ringing the bell saying go and sleep. You get to the university and everything is cool.
Okay.
There's absolute, let me not use absolute, but there's so much freedom. So much freedom. You know how secondary school, you're supposed to sleep at a certain time, wake up at a certain time.
Go to dining hall.
At the university, if you don't go for your lectures, nobody will mind you.
Nobody cares.
And at time, it was the first university examination. So the whole of the first year, you did one exam at the end of the year.
Okay.
That's what you did. And so
lucky you.
There was a lot of fooling around. Then getting to exam, you got serious just to pass your exam and go, you know. So that was it. And the freedom was amazing, I mean, to find that kind of environment. And those days, we didn't have this kind of congestion that we find in the universities.
Okay.
We're not that many, so it was a fun place to be.
Okay.
It was quite interesting, yeah.
Interesting. And so at the University of Ghana, you read communications?
No, communication at the graduate level.
Graduate level.
Because, you know, it's still not another graduate program. It's a graduate program.
Okay.
I read French and Spanish.
Oh.
For French, Spanish, and linguistics.
Okay.
For the first year. Yeah.
Comment ça va?
Ça va bien. Ça va bien.
Interesting. Okay. Je remercie, mon Dieu. Don't ask me anything.
Oh, you finished with all you know. So
interesting. All right. So you read French and Spanish at the University of Ghana.
Yes. In fact, I majored in. I completed with French and Spanish.
Oh, wow.
I dropped linguistics after first year.
Okay. Why?
We were supposed to drop one.
Okay, and you felt that was...
I felt, I later regretted, but you know, at that time I just felt that that was the best thing to do.
And then you went on to do the master's program?
I first did graduate diploma in communication studies.
Okay.
Because at that time, that was what we entered to do.
Okay.
Graduate diploma for the, then when you finish and you did well, you were asked to do the masters, in fact MA, and then those who did well at that stage were asked to do the MPhil.
Okay.
So that was these were the stages that we had to go through.
What were your research areas?
My first one, and that was interesting because I had never done research.
Okay.
And then here I was doing graduate diploma. They said project work, and you had to follow some procedures and all that. I was looking at two newspapers, Daily Graphic and Le Soleil, and that was a francophone paper. And looking because there was this belief that Africa was not being covered well by the foreign media, so it was more of looking at how Africa was covering itself.
Yeah.
Because if you're accusing somebody of not doing something good for you, how are you doing it for yourself? So I looked at the two newspapers to see whether there was going to be any difference or whatever. And but that was interesting for me because in fact before I finished that I had given birth to my first child. Wow. And so I was in school. A friend of mine calls it teenage pregnancy. Is there anybody who gives birth in school, whether you are 40 years or whatever, is teenage pregnancy? So yeah, so that was what I did for the graduate diploma.
Okay, and for the PhD?
Before then, the MPhil, I looked at, it was a profile of public relations practice in Ghana. Okay. So I did more of study of those who were in public relations practice, what they were doing, and the status of the practice and how it could be upgraded and all that was what I did. Then at the PhD level, which I did at Leicester, University of Leicester, it was looking at political communication involving two periods of national life. So I was looking at Kufuor's regime and looking at Rawlings's regime. To compare and see whether the media were hard on one or whatever. So
on the other.
So that was what I did. Yeah.
Okay, that's quite interesting. There are interesting areas that you have actually looked into, especially because we are gearing into an election year, which I'll be picking your thoughts on. One of the issues that normally we abhor is the intemperate language that gets into the system when the political activities get heated. I'll take a break. Professor Margaret Gyan, she is my guest on PM Personality Profile, and I'm really enjoying the conversation tonight. When I return from this break, remember she is a former High Commissioner to Canada. She will be sharing that bag of experiences with us when we return. She would also be telling us more about her thoughts of the Ghanaian media, her assessment, what she thinks the Ghanaian media has achieved for itself. Again, we'll be talking about media attacks. Recently, it's been in the news. The information minister says we should blame the police and the judiciary for the consistent or persistent media attacks. We'll be delving into that. Plus, her thoughts on corruption in the country. Stay with me, I'm coming right back. Welcome back to PM Personality Profile. My guest still Margaret Gyan, and she's former High Commissioner to Canada. Let me find out from you. I mean, you were High Commissioner to Canada, and definitely as a Ghanaian, I don't know how it was. Share your experience in Canada.
There are so many Ghanaians in Canada.
So I hear.
So many.
I hear
especially in Toronto.
Okay.
So many. And in almost every city you find Ghanaians. And you find Ghanaian food.
Interesting.
In fact, the best kinky I ever ate
was in Canada.
Was in Toronto.
Tell me about it.
This is a champion kinky. To the point that I would let her ship some, put some in the bus.
Okay.
Bring it to me. I pay for the transportation and then pay her money.
Okay.
Yes, the best kinky I ate was from there. You could eat anything.
Okay.
It tends to be slightly more expensive than if you eat potatoes and rice. But if you want to eat fufu, you can eat fufu. If you want to eat banku, you can eat banku.
Okay.
If you want to eat both fruit.
So you never missed home?
No, that place is home too. You know, it's of course, if you want more money, then you have to bring it from Ghana. But otherwise, you had everything there to eat if you wanted, yeah.
In Ghana. How was the experience like?
Oh, marvelous. It was, you know, I've been teaching public relations all this while. In fact, until this year.
Okay.
And, oh no, I think I'm still teaching. I'll teach in the next semester.
Okay.
And I felt, or I realized that being a High Commissioner was virtually the practical side of what I had been teaching. At least that's why I saw it.
Okay.
And because you are dealing with the home country, you are dealing with your country of accreditation, you are dealing with people who are, so I'm saying there are a lot of Ghanaians in Canada. Most of them are not Ghanaian.
Okay.
Okay. They are Ghanaian by birth, but by nationality, they are no longer Ghanaian. And so they would have different expectations of you and all that. But it was a good experience. Good experience. You got to know what you would normally, as a teacher, not know.
Okay.
And for me, it was more of putting into practice what I had been teaching all the time.
Okay.
And the Canadian diplomatic corps was interesting because they would have, of course, I don't know how other countries structure this. They have the Commonwealth group, so all members of the Commonwealth countries have an association. And then you have you have the African group, and so all the African diplomats are in one group. Then you have, I think, Asia Pacific or something. So you had the regional ones, then you had the overall group and all that. Yeah. So it's possible for you to be in one or two, in fact 2 or 3 different groups and all that. And we kind of related with each other very well.
In terms of lifting the image of Ghana in that country, I mean, how would you assess your performance? You
know, first of all, I want to say that the High Commissioner or Ambassador is really not enough to lift up the country's flag. It is more of your people in that place, how they behave, how they comport themselves, what they do to either undermine your country or to lift it up. Yeah. So what you can do is to encourage them, associate with them, let them know you are part of them, you understand what they're doing, and you endorse, and you know, those are the things you can do. But as an individual, there's very little you can do to project your country. Most of the things you do are official things. So they've invited you to come to this place, you go.
Okay.
Do this, and then your home country will tell you what you should do.
Yeah.
And then also you will decide that you want to meet with, so Ghanaians are in everywhere. You want to meet them in Calgary, you want to meet them in Edmonton, you want to meet them in Vancouver, and all that. So, and so I think that it takes the generality of our people and what they do and what they don't do to project our image, you know, and not necessarily the mission.
Okay. I know that you abhor corruption, and I'm bringing you back home to Ghana. What's your assessment of the way we have fought corruption over the period?
You know, sometimes I don't know what to believe, because corruption is such an abused word in our context, that somehow people think that every politician is corrupt, and they don't look anywhere else. So politicians are corrupt, corruption is politicians. You know? And so you find somebody, and you're talking about in template language, somebody on radio talking about the thieves and they've stolen, and like us, we didn't steal. You know, it's not, in the same way as you find a corrupt politician, you find a corrupt teacher, a corrupt nurse, a corrupt doctor, a corrupt whatever it is, journalist. You know, and so sometimes I don't even know how to approach this. But what I know is that perhaps our institutions to check corruption are not rigorous enough. Okay. So you've been appointed High Commissioner. You are supposed to complete your assets declaration form. Nobody gets to see what it is. In fact, I've forgotten what I wrote in mine.
Okay.
Because you take it to, where is that? Is that the ministry? Director General or somewhere there. You deposit it there. The officer takes it, puts it there. Somewhere. It's tucked away somewhere. So how do you know that what I have in there is actually my property?
Probably the reason people are calling for, you know, that to be made public.
Exactly. You see, if I say that I have 3 houses, I should show proof that these are my houses before, because your interest is in what I've acquired in public office. And so to see whether don't know
what I had.
Exactly. And you want to see whether what I have right now at the end of my service is something I acquired during the 2 or 3 years I was in service, or it was something I had already. And you fill a form and nobody gets to know what's in there, not even the Auditor General himself. Okay, and so for me, it's one of those useless exercises that we have in our constitution, and maybe we will have to take a second look and see what we can do. And then you talking about.
So for you, what would have been the ideal thing to do?
The ideal thing, in fact, it's not just for politicians, for everybody. We should be able to match people's sources of income against the wealth that they display. So that if you are forced to go and steal or do something, you do so cautiously. Because you know somebody can challenge you and say that you are just a lecturer. You've been teaching for so and so years. This has been your salary. So how did you acquire this? Then maybe I'll come and explain that I'm teaching, but I'm also serving on boards, and I'm also doing consultancies. And for each consultancy, I pay my tax to the state. So then we keep records and we prove that, yes, I'm a lecturer, but these are the things I've legally and legitimately acquired. And it should happen to everybody else. Otherwise, we are always concealing things, and it's easy for you to point at the politician. And the familiar question is, where is the politician coming from? Coming from our homes, isn't it? So how can your home that has produced you who are corrupt produce somebody who is a saint? It's just your own light or your own type that has transitioned into politics. And so I think we should minimize this whole idea of looking at the politician as a corrupt one, and expand our view of corruption and see that the messenger who steals reams of paper is as corrupt as the headmaster who collects money from parents to give to the invigilator, who is also corrupt. But he's gone there, he's been paid to go and invigilate. Now he looks the other way because he's been given money for the children to cheat. And in fact, what even worries me most about that is that we are actually destroying this country for the future generation. The person is doing BEC, and you're teaching him how to steal. instead of injecting in him hard work. And that's why I like St. Francis so much.
Yeah.
You will work hard. You know, so what is hard work? After all I need is my mother, out of her tomato that she sold, give me money to give to the invigilator, and that's all. I'll pass.
Okay.
So this person has this sense of entitlement that all I need is to do this, then I go through. So when they get to SHS, they would have done it once, so they will perfect their act. Then they come to the university, the same thing. Then they finish with first class, second upper, second lower, and you have the nerves to go and organize a party for them because they finished. What all they've done is to steal. It's to steal along the way.
True.
And that same person, these days, the students finish and they want to go into politics. So the person goes to become an MP, he's appointed a minister, and you think that suddenly he'll become a saint.
Yeah.
Somebody whose lifestyle has been cheating.
Yeah.
How does it change? And so I think that we should look at ourselves. Each time we want to say somebody is corrupt, look at what you are doing that is corrupt.
Yeah.
There are teachers who never go to the classroom. Or they go once or twice in a week and that's it. And they are paid for the whole week.
Yeah.
There are nurses who are on duty, they won't go. There are doctors who have their own private clinics and they steal equipment and drugs from the government hospital to their
Yeah.
and yet it's the politician who is corrupt.
Let's talk about the media, and definitely you being at the School of Communications, you've produced a lot of journalists, a lot of public relations practitioners. How do you feel about attacks on journalists? Till date, Ahmed Swale's killers have not been found. A lot more. My colleague Latif's case is still there. We haven't seen the end of it. How do you feel about all of it?
You know, I would just say that attacks on anybody are wrong. You don't attack anybody. If you have any legitimate reason to have a beef or a tiff with the person, report to the right agencies.
Yeah.
And it's worse when the person is a journalist, because you're attacking the person at the root of what they are supposed to be doing.
Definitely.
It's like you going to the classroom to attack a teacher. And that was one thing that I hated so much. I didn't know why we didn't punish those parents enough. Because you don't go to a classroom and start beating a teacher because they've corrected your child.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's wrong.
It's so wrong.
It's wrong for you to attack journalists. But, you know, the other thing, if you look at the flip side, is now you have all kinds of pretenders who say they are journalists. And for as long as they pay their dues, they are members of GJA.
Yeah.
So they do all kinds of things that do not lie within the environment, the ambience of journalism. And when they fall into trouble, GJA comes to their defense. Now, when you do that, then you are undermining your own profession. You should be, in fact, recently when Joyce Sapon issued that statement about, I think, a media house which had done something, I felt that was the start of something useful. So we are not going to condone any wrongdoing from journalists, but at the same time, we are not going to condone any wrongdoing against journalists.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to look at. But certainly, that's not the right thing to do. You don't attack them. And in fact, you're talking about Latif. In his case, was the police service, right? Which is even worse.
Worse. They're supposed to be protecting us,
Exactly,
right?
which is even worse. But we are in a country where people usually get away with just anything. You know, if people were being punished and punished so harshly for what they've done, people will take a cue and know that we don't condone many of the things that they do.
Professor Margaret Gyan, we are so proud of your achievements, and we want to thank you for your contribution to Ghana's development and to make Ghana a better place. God bless you for the good job. I'm sure the kids are very proud of you too. How many of them?
There are 3, but they will tell you they are no longer kids.
They are big. How
they are
many
adults.
boys and girls?
1 boy, 2 girls.
Okay.
1 boy, 2 girls.
Okay.
Even the youngest is 25.
3 adults.
So they are adults. They are not
My
children
goodness.
anymore.
Wow. We congratulate you for all that achievement. But I must say that you look very healthy for your age. I'm just hearing your last 25 years. Wow,
She's
that's
25,
that's interesting. Do you do anything to keep fit?
God is keeping me fit.
I like that.
Keeping me fit. I don't know, but you know, I think that if you continue working, it helps. It helps. Once you stop working, you begin dying. You know, because the body it's gotten used to a certain regime.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose that. So, but I think it's by the grace of God,
By the
largely.
grace of God.
By the grace of God. Because sometimes I look at people and I'm saying, am I older than this person?
Yeah.
The person looks so old.
Old.
If they haven't reduced their age, then really something really is happening to them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the grace.
We thank God for your
grace,
life.
yes.
We really thank God for your life. So when you retire after all said and done, and I know you're a very busy person, even though you've retired, what do you do to relax?
You mean when I'm out of working?
Definitely, when everything
I listen to
is
news.
settled.
I listen to music.
Okay.
Sometimes I watch a few films.
Okay.
And I chat to friends.
Which among the lot is your favorite?
I have so many favorites. So many.
Okay.
So many. So it depends on my mood.
Okay.
And I think the last few days it's been Celestine Donko's Apenam. You know, I don't even understand Eve, but I like because she's combining English with Eve and she. So
I like that.
I like that, and I like Goodness of God, and I like Mercy Chinwe of Nigeria, and of course, what's her name again? Diana Hamilton. I really enjoy good music.
Turned your life around.
Oh, he has turned my life around.
And
From that poor slipperless girl.
Where is Daddy Slippers?
Yeah, Daddy Slippers. By the way, we have the same size. Shoe size.
I want to thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Professor Margaret Gyan for talking to us. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I picked a lot of lessons from our conversations. Thank you so much for contributing so much for the development of Ghana and also making Ghana a better place to be. And we want to say God bless you.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
Viewers, same time next week, we'll be bringing you another interesting edition of PM Personality Profile. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.